I'm kind of dealing right now with this idea of bearing false witness. Like to say, oh, you have an option to do this. And I understand the intent, but still, it's called bearing false witness. When you're going along with somebody's ideas and you're not telling them that they're wrong, and it's not like a direct lie, but it's still bearing false witness. The Ten Commandments are just not what you think. They're big. They cover. So I'm dealing with this personally, this idea of bearing false witness, like saying, no, you're wrong. Even though legally you can have an abortion, God doesn't permit that. So we really do need to have just laws, We really need to do by God what God, His standard's big. We're going to fail, ultimately, but we keep trying. We keep repenting. We keep trying to do the right thing, And so that's why I support this, even though I work for, they're not totally on board, but they are, but they don't know yet.
Yeah.
So the abolition.
I think, in a case like that, if you make clear to the patient you're consulting with what you think is right, and that there's no uncertainty on their part.
But I should stay out of the equation. It's God's standard and what He thinks, and I'm just bearing witness of that.
Well, sure. Well, then that then to say it that way would be great as well.
It's interesting you're here on the Abolition Day. Did you realize it was Abolition?
I did. I'm here almost every day. So.
And you know why we're here, Mr. Lauinger?
Pardon?
And you know why we're here, Mr. Lauinger? Because bills that regulate murder are being passed in this building, and we have to stop doing that. We have to stop. We've been doing this for 49 years. This Holocaust should have been over before I ever entered the world.
It never should have happened. I agree.
It's happening
God's not happy
with
with
the permission of the pro-life legislators and pro-life leaders like yourself. It's happening, and I know that many of you you have good intentions. I know that, but you have to look at what does God say about this matter. What does the Lord say? He says, "You shall not murder." That we must do justice and mercy, not to regulate murder, not to pass laws that say once you meet this criteria, then you can murder a baby. That's what they're doing here in Oklahoma and around the country.
Well,
we can't try to rationalize, and everyone does it. Everyone rationalizes too. Maybe not. Maybe not him. He's strong and bold.
It's not a case of rationalizing. It's a case of doing the possible.
Doing
what we can do. God can do things that we can't do. We can do as much as we're able to do. What we're able to do under our system of government is what we're doing right now. This is a government building, and it's operating in conformity with the system of government that was established in our nation in 1789, and we're doing the best we can to get where we need to be, which is to protect the unborn child. But we've got to do it. God can do it in one fell swoop, and it'd be great if that's the way it happened. But all of the plodding lawgivers and lawmakers and people working for just laws have to follow a course that is laid out by the system of government in which we function, and politics
but there is a line in the sand too at the same time, and you see that all through the Bible and even through history. There's a line where you say, okay, yeah, you try to follow the framework, but at some point when it becomes against God's law, then you say we must obey God rather than man.
Absolutely.
And
but politics is
slavery,
the art of the possible.
Well, but with God, all things are possible. And even the founding fathers did not envision that the Supreme Court would be that we would treat them as the ultimate authority in our land. That whatever they do or say, whatever opinion they give, that we have to submit to it. That's not, because when they violate the Constitution and oppose God's law, we have a duty to ignore them. We must ignore Roe v. Wade.
Obedience can only be blessed. blessing is only by obedience to God, ultimately.
And we refuse to do that.
Being obedient to a corrupt, sinful system.
Well, I guess we all have to follow the course that we think is most likely to bring about the result that we all want.
Well, what is the result you want, Mr. Lauinger?
Protect the unborn child.
Well, you can protect all of them, but you have to let go of regulating it and know that we can ignore the Supreme Court. We should have done that at the beginning. We can't say them. We can tell them that we must.
Feel free.
We must tell them.
Feel free to ignore.
There's going to be a cost.
Well, no, we're calling you to do that, to join us in ignoring the Supreme Court. Say, doesn't matter what you say when you violate God's law and you violate the Constitution. We must obey God rather than man. Join us in doing that, because
I've been working to protect the unborn child for 49 years.
I understand that, sir. But
when I came out of the place where I worked on January 22nd of 1973, there was a newspaper box on the corner, Tulsa Tribune, evening paper, and the headline said, "Supreme Court legalizes abortion." And I felt as though I had been hit in the face with a 2-by-4. And from that day to this, I have devoted my life to protecting the unborn child. Did you find out anything about
She is not back there.
Not back there.
But I gave Christina her card, and when Becky comes back up there, we'll
paradigm shift.
Okay, great. Thanks very much. Thank you.
Okay.
Enjoyed the visit, April. Thank
Okay,
you.
well, really enjoyed talking with you. And I know you're intent, but really think about it, pray, and think about biblical, Blake Gideon, Pastor Blake Gideon, have you listened to some of his sermons?
I've met Blake and talked to him.
Yeah, he took some bills and he opened his Bible and he compared it and he really reflected. But this was a process that took him a while, and then he really reflected and he just said, the abolition bill wasn't biblical. He couldn't say that this one was,
Well,
and I know you've done
leading
it.
the innocent to slaughter.
Yeah.
That's what these pro-life bills are doing.
Anti-biblical as anything could be.
That's what these pro-life bills are doing. They're leading the innocent to slaughter.
You have power, and you have a lot of power in everything you've done. And I know you don't have bad intent, but try to rethink and think about it. Really think about it, really.
Well, I do, I shall. I do, and I shall.
I know.
What is your name?
Nicholas.
Nicholas?
Yes, sir. And I want to say this humbly, that if we keep passing pro-life bills, this Holocaust will not end. We must at this time, it's past time to tell the Supreme Court, you're wrong. We're not going to regulate or allow babies to be murdered anymore on our watch, and to ignore their authority. They have no authority when they violate God's law and the Constitution, and that we're going to protect children in this state, this jurisdiction, and we're going to protect them. We're going to protect our borders. And any court or any judge that says you can't do that, we're going to ignore them. That's what we should have done a long time ago. And the reason that I've been on this battlefield since 2008. The reason that is because pro-life laws that are protecting how, when, and where babies can be murdered, and that makes me sick. That this should have been over years ago, and this going back to 2016. I know you know this. Of course, you're here in Oklahoma. A bill that would abolish abortion, not regulate it, not allow it, but that would abolish abortion, has been killed by pro-life Republicans. Senator Greg Treat, we're in his office. He has killed those bills. And he's going to stand before God, and so will you. You're going to stand before God, Mr. Lauinger.
You're saying that the bill would abolish abortion it's your perspective on what would have been achieved by the enactment of that bill.
But you can't base what you do on expected results. You have to be obedient to God, leave the results to God. I know we're thinking through, it might not, I don't know how it will play out.
I agree with that. We do the best we can, we leave the results to God.
But we're not doing the best we can. We're submitting to a lawless court.
I think we are. I mean,
we're bowing down to...
Why isn't it stopped?
But because we're not doing the best we can, we're doing what we think is practical. But bowing down to a lawless court, that's not practical. That's telling the Supreme Court, you're God, and we're going to trust you. We're going to do what you say.
No,
And
we're not saying they're God.
We're treating them as God.
We know what God thinks of abortion. We're just working through the system of government that.
Why don't we agree with God? If we say abortion is murder,
all.
let's act like children are being murdered. We're not doing that. We're treating murder like health care.
I think we are.
With these bills.
For many decades, I have been. Thank you, Nicholas.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Lauinger.